Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivemy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And what's more heroic than the birth of science fiction?
Oh,
Yeah.
You have, science fiction is alive. Mary
Yep.
Shelley birthed it. Yeah, ladies, remember that every time you read science fiction ever.
Sup?
Lady did this.
But thanks, girls.
Thanks, girl power.
I don't know.
Girl power.
I might have demeaned it a little bit.
I mean, she could have killed less women.
Understood.
in her first science fiction story. But you know what? We're going to give her a pass.
It was the 1800s.
It was the 1800s. She was 18 years old.
So, killing it.
That's pretty crushing it.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 1994, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. We're doing kind of a little creature feature month because we're doing Creature Commandos next week.
That's right.
And we've never really done like a lot of scary creatures.
Oh no! Oh no!
Look out!
Wow! She's spooked.
I'm spooked. I was trying to be scary.
Oh, okay. No, it didn't work. But yeah, 1994's Frankenstein, directed by Kenneth Branagh, and also starring Kenneth Branagh.
He does that.
He'll do that to you pretty easily, huh?
That's his fucking bread and butter. I can't believe he wasn't in Thor.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, not even a cameo. Didn't sneak in there.
Branagh loves to direct.
As he got older, he got wiser. You know what I mean?
That or Marvel was like, not this time.
Come on.
Can you focus?
Kenny.
It's Chris's time.
Kenny. Ken.
We don't need you, Ken. Hiddleston also knows Shakespeare. It's fine.
Yeah, I really don't like calling him Ken. It feels weird in the mouth and ears. Yeah, his name is Kenneth. He is a Kenneth all of the way. But yes, so we're doing different creatures surrounding the Creature Commandos, which is the first new property of the new DCU? Question mark?
Real excited actually to get into that next week.
Come
back, folks.
Please come back.
Always come back.
I mean, we would always say please come back, but in this one in particular, please come back.
It's going to be an interesting discussion.
We're going to be locked in on that one. And now let's get into the episode. Let's talk about 1994's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Thank you. It's Mary Shelley's.
All right, we have seen 1994's Frankenstein. Had you seen this one before?
I had seen it, and I don't know if I fell asleep or I turned it off because I remembered one scene very clearly and nothing else.
Okay. So. Interesting. Yeah, and it's a slow-paced, confident creature feature, and you were a child.
I was a child. At 94, I was not very old yet.
Yeah, I don't think you were old enough to appreciate this bad boy.
No, I think I was like, ooh, a monster movie, and then it's like, wait. Why is it so slow?
Yeah.
Why is it more Shakespearean than you're used to? So I think I just went to bed.
Okay. Yeah, I also had never seen this one before. I actually am not sure if I've seen any production of Frankenstein beginning to end. It's something that I've just kind of culturally osmosed over the years.
Osmosis,
right?
Andrew over here.
Thank you. It might be one of those things that I've just kind of absorbed as a broader cultural piece, but I don't think I've ever actually experienced a full production or read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
See, I have read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but now that you say it, I don't think I've ever seen a full production either. But the reason this one is called Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is it's true to the book, whereas every other Frankenstein is basically like the Boris Karloff monster with the bolts in his neck, which is not at all what the book is like. This is much more true to it. So her name gets put on it like, just so you know, this is...
Truest.
Yeah. This is the book version.
Yeah. We're a book movie.
This is for the nerds. This is for the people who want to see Branagh do Shakespeare, but it's not technically Shakespeare.
Yes.
But it's
old.
Classic lit.
It's old. And Diana, did you like it?
I did like it quite a bit. I liked it probably more better than it is. Like, I don't think it deserved how much I liked it. As someone who read the book, I'm like, I like that this one's for the book nerds, which is why I brought it up. I'm like, I like when us nerds are like, oh yeah, they did it right this time. That's what Mary Shelley was talking about. These were her themes and how she envisioned her creature. So I like that about it. I think Branagh's doing an incredible performance. I love Kenneth Branagh. I've always liked him. I might have even tried to watch this. No, I was too young. I was like, because I already had a crush on him? No, I was 8 years old. There's no crushes yet, unless I watched it like later. So yeah, I quite liked it. I think it's not very, there's not like any tension in it really throughout the movie, but the deaths are also horrific and haunting, and they do just kind of hit you out of nowhere and are crazy. And I think that's really cool about this movie. Parts of it are slow, but the production quality is great. The design of the sets and everything is just crazy and kind of makes you feel kind of insane, which is really fun. So there's a lot to like here. I think Robert De Niro was poorly cast as the creature. It was probably my biggest fault of this film. And I don't really like the creature design or look of him. But overall, I have quite a good time with this as a book nerd. Andrew, how did you feel about 1994 Mary Shelley's Frankenstein?
As a non-book nerd, or I guess just maybe not a Mary Shelley Frankenstein
books.
Creature book nerd, I'm a reader. I read.
He does read a lot.
But I still liked it. I think it's great. I think it's great. I had a really good time with this. I kind of agree with you on all points. I do think that the creature is probably one of the lesser casting choices and one of the lesser decisions of this film. I like that it's big, it's bombastic. We've talked about it before on the podcast, but I like it when film goes for full-on stage production, set dressing. And Branagh, obviously with a pedigree in theater, is going for that kind of stage production. So some of the set pieces are just really incredible in this. The set pieces are good. The looks are good. The performances are all really good. There's a few too many uses of spinning camera work to the point where it's a little nauseating.
I forgot how much it spun. You're right.
Considering how grand and elegant the set design is, it doesn't really need this very hectic and disorienting spinning camera, which doesn't even thematically match some of the scenes that it's used in, I think, with other than one exception.
Because it mostly spins whenever he's with Helena Bonham Carter. Whenever they're hugging, that camera is spinning around.
Just going. And there's a couple where they're just like saying hello, and maybe it's meant to parallel like the dance moves of the opening sequence or things like that. But it's kind of nauseating. So there's a few pieces of nauseating camera work. The creature is like, I don't even hate De Niro as it. I'm just like, it's just not it. It just doesn't hit like the rest of the things in this movie kind of hit for me. So yeah, this is I think it's great. It's not a love for me. It's not something I'd regularly watch, but oh boy, some of the scary deaths and like moments really do hit like a punch in the chest.
Yeah,
though. This movie sneaks up on you and it stays with you.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I want to talk about the set actually for a little bit because I really do love this. I love that it feels like a theater production. And you can, once you know, like, they didn't have a ton of money. They had an okay amount of money for a Frankenstein movie. But once you know, you're like, what did they spend it on? Like, they made sure they used every set that they spent a lot of money on as much as possible. Like that giant staircase where they always dance all the time. They use that set over and over and over again. But it slaps. It's this giant room with this big, huge, long staircase that doesn't have a railing. People are going to fall off it and die. No one dies that way, but they should.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's gorgeous, but it's also like a little bit insane, the way it curves and how long it goes.
To be fair, Helena Bonham Carter's Elizabeth does yeet herself off the top of it at the end of the movie, and I think that there is no railing where she yeets.
I think she was probably toast anyway, but I agree that
she does fall clean off. So someone does fall off those stairs.
She does fall off, and with a railing, she might have not made it. You're right.
She might have not. Yeah. I wouldn't call her on the stairs yet. She was on like the top landing, but she was heading towards it. But yes, sorry.
Yes, so that one is incredible. And then everything they would just spend money on, they're like, we made this crazy circular classroom And it's for this classroom scene. But then later, they actually try to save John Cleese's life there. And it's like, I thought this was a classroom. Like, well, it's a cool-looking set. Shut up, Diana.
Well, I think it's meant to be, it's a medical observation room.
Oh,
so
that's why it's like
that's
that.
why it goes straight up. That's how old school medical learning classrooms. So like they could bring in a body and dissect it or perform a surgery while students literally overlooked.
Okay, that makes sense.
An old
I was
classroom
like,
design.
I thought they just hadn't figured out school class settings yet.
They haven't figured out
Where
theater
do we
seats.
put the seats?
Yeah, it is weird to give a regular lecture in one where I'm
Nobody.
like, this professor is old enough, his neck is fucked. He can't be looking directly up at students for that long. You're considerably old.
You're considerably old. So yeah, they used that one several times. And then this giant laboratory set they built with this giant pulley system on the ceiling that hauls like this big metal coffin that's just clanging around. I love the laboratory set. Kenneth Branagh's having so much fun.
Yes, and I love the set, and they love it so much that they just use it again as his own attic later.
Yes,
like I found that
definitely
super funny that like they introduced this set. He's moved to London, he has moved to medical school from Switzerland, and he's like, I found this attic where I can do my experiments while I'm in school, and then creates this big grand design set, and it's like, ship it all back to Switzerland. And then later when he has to do it again, he's like, yes, the attic of this mansion looks exactly like the one I rented in London. And all of my gear I shipped back. So it makes sense that it looks the same. Don't worry about it. It's the same set, but fuck it looks great.
I bet English and Swedish attics were all the same.
Same architecture. Don't worry about it.
Don't even worry about it.
Same size, even though one was clearly like above,
a castle?
Yeah, one was above a 4-bedroom home in London, and another was the ceiling of a castle.
Yeah, a king's castle, basically. He's not like, he's rich as hell.
Yeah.
So just a giant, and I even think the top of that house that he lived in Switzerland was flat. So it doesn't make any sense why it was a pointy roofed.
No, but they're just reusing that set.
They're just reusing that set.
It's cost beneficial, and they made a set that slaps. And did I notice it? That they reused it? Yes. Did I care? No, not really. It looks fucking great. Use it twice. I don't give a shit.
Amazing, yeah. And this thing that holds like the eels and then it shoots the eels into the coffin. There's so much happening.
Yeah.
There is so much set work happening in this whole thing. And it causes this crazy thing in my mind where they've created such a huge elaborate set for his experiments. And they've shown Victor doing so many experiments that I actually, even today in 2024, was like, this might work. I think, you know what?
He might do it.
He makes some great points.
He might do it on this one.
He's got amniotic fluid. Gross. He's got eels with electricity. He's learning about the nervous system. I think this fucker might do it.
Yeah.
And when he came to life, I believed it.
I did believe it.
I absolutely believed it.
I did believe it. And also, Kenneth Branagh sold the shit out of it as well.
He sold the shit out of it.
He sold the shit out of his Victor Frankenstein. He really sold, I think, every aspect of this personality, of this character. Like, I believed the romance. Mm-hmm. I believed the search for scientific knowledge. I believed the singular focus on his work and vision, the obsession. Yeah, the obsession, the romance, the science, the family, all of it. I bought into 100% of it because he sold it all so well.
I also bought into it, which is really hard because when you're doing someone who is so obsessed with their science to such a degree, especially with this story being like scientific ambition can be detrimental if you don't have anything else in your life. It can be really easy to be like, that's a bad guy, and he doesn't actually care about the people in his life. He just uses them, or they're just around, and he doesn't really care. But you do genuinely like, no, he loves Elizabeth. He loves Elizabeth. He loves Henry, his friend, his dad, his brother, his mom. Like the reason he is so compelled to do this is because he loves so much.
Yeah.
Which is very rare for this kind of like madman scientist character. And it's weird to say it's rare because he was like the first one. But we've lost something. Yeah. He does love so much. They do also do a great job of showing that like
he kind of forgets why he's doing it at certain points as well, which I think is important, but he does still have that kind of basis of like the trauma of I lost my mother, of catching myself, of falling back in. It's a ride that I fully believe from his performance as well.
I do fully believe it. I do like how the script has made him also more of a likable character than the book. In the book, he's a little bit of a bitch and does not take any responsibility for any of the stuff that's happened or done to a much higher degree.
Yeah.
Of like, he's like, yeah, I just won't tell anyone I did that, killed all those people. There's a longer extended period where he just lets Justine get executed. It's not this quick execution that he can't stop by a mob.
Okay.
So he's much more of an asshole in the book. So I think the changes make you like him more, and it makes a better viewing experience of a movie.
And I do know that like one of the differences I do know is that in the book the family also just snatches Elizabeth from another family as well.
Yeah, a little bit. She is an orphan, I think, but it's not from scarlet fever. But I think they reveal that later. Like, we didn't know she was an orphan. We just thought she was like so beautiful.
Yeah, like the line I read was that she was too beautiful to be poor, so we took her. Yeah, so they were just like, let's grab the prettiest kid in town and take them.
Hey, you know what? It's a heartwarming tale from her perspective.
Is it?
I don't know. Annie really liked being adopted by a rich family in the movie Annie.
Yeah.
So from Elizabeth's perspective, it's like, well, there's scarlet fever family, or they're actually really nice to me. For a family
There's some stuff that does rule there.
For a family who kidnaps a child, they're oddly great.
Oh,
They love each other. They're super supportive.
That's great. That's great.
They're kind to their servants. They really appreciate them, it seems. They're willing to marry her to Victor.
Yeah.
They're kind of too into it.
Yeah, there's some problems there.
I don't think you need to mention your brother and sister this much or ever. Oh, boy.
Yeah, that might be something that we could just kind of date out of the retellings of this story to a certain degree, but...
Or, you know what? I can even accept it if they adopt her when she's a little bit older. She looked like she was like 6.
Yeah, or if they were just like, she lives here at the castle.
She's not your sister.
Let's stop saying sister so much. It's a classic problem.
Yeah, this is your cousin now.
Yeah.
Even that's legal.
Even that's something.
They're not related anyway.
And it's all 1800s. No one gave a shit about any of this shit.
It's very funny watching this movie and being like, we can fuck even though we're brother and sister, but not until we're married. The lines are weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the real theme of this story is just the nepotism that this family can get away with anything. That's all it is. We get away with all of it.
I mean, they all die.
Ah, that's true. They don't.
They don't get away with shit.
Withdrawn then.
Even William, the little boy, just murdered.
Just gone.
Yeah.
Just murked. Yeah, that's the end of him.
Just
murked. Off camera, but still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only off-camera death.
Yeah. They show some mercy there. What is the theme of this?
I think the theme is, I wrote it down because you asked me before we started, and I was like, what is the fucking theme? I think science without thought of consequence is, I'm going to say against God, even though I don't believe God, but I don't know a better way to phrase it. Like, science without thought of consequence is detrimental. It's kind of like, when you have too much hubris in Jurassic Park. This is an early Jurassic Park in a lot of ways.
Sure.
It's like you have to think of the reasons you're doing the science, the consequences
It's
of
Shakespearean hubris, but with a science slant.
Yeah, so it's paralleled with the guy going to the North Pole. He's so focused on being the first man to the North Pole, he's willing to let his men die. And he learns from Victor that, if you're too focused on the science without the consequence, then it is detrimental to all, and it can cause destruction.
Yeah.
And they will mutiny and kill him, probably. He's learned a valuable lesson about just going south again.
I'm gonna play a devil's advocate here for a second. I'm gonna Willem was right.
All right.
And say that the captain did nothing wrong.
They did agree to go on a voyage to the North Pole.
There was full consent. There was consent and pay, and he didn't play God. Getting in a ship and going really far, while tough, is it reckless? Quite possibly, as many things were at that time. Is it God? Like, Victor Frankenstein is like, what if I chopped up the corpses I found to make new life? And this guy was like, what if boat went far? And Victor Frankenstein is like, ah, yes, you're just like me, my boy. No, he's not, Victor.
He's willing to make sacrifices for science, but I don't even know if that's science. That's just like moving.
It's exploration. It's exploration, which is a kind of science.
It is a kind of science, but he didn't like design his own boat or anything. You're absolutely right. The boat captain was not really that much in the wrong. Like, it probably will kill them if they keep going north, but everyone on the ship said, we'll go north.
Yeah.
They probably thought the guy'd give up.
Yeah, or that, like, if it got to, like, you know, they didn't agree to a full-on suicide mission, you know, like to be like, okay, we're at a point now where we're going to die, let's keep going forward. They thought it was going to be quite difficult or were naive. There's definitely some moral complications there, but that, like, there's a touch of parallel, but I'm like, he's not the same guy, Victor. Victor, come on, man.
Victor's just looking for any port in a storm. He's like, I don't suppose you'd understand madness. I don't suppose you would lend an ear to a fellow scientist we're exactly the same, right? Right?
We're the same, right?
I'm not raving mad.
I'm definitely not a raving mad man walking across the ice chasing a monster of my own creation. Yeah, you have a boat. It's the same thing.
Don't bring this guy down with you, Victor.
And also, even the crew that was like, we're going to mutiny. Because when the captain's like, we got to chop up some wood and repair the boat. And it's like, the crew are tired. And then the captain's like, so are we just going to sit down and die?
He's right about that one.
He's right. You still got to chop wood. And I get everyone's mad about doing that. But that's also what he has to do. Also,
in those conditions, the physical activity will keep you warm and alive. I don't know what your food levels are like.
Yeah, if you have the calories to burn, the physical activity can be helpful. So yeah, I think Captain Walton makes some points and is just an explorer doing normal explorer shit.
I do think he can't be that great an explorer. I mean, it seems like Victor got there to the same point on foot. Like, he can't be that close to the North Pole.
That does suck, doesn't it?
Yeah, you run into a guy who's alone on foot, and he's like, yeah, I'm just as far as you.
He said he had dogs.
Yeah. But, like, that doesn't make any sense still. Maybe Sweden is just so much closer to the North Pole.
He took a shortcut or something.
He came the other way.
Whatever. Whatever. He made it.
I would just be like, what route did you take, man? Should we go back that
way? Yeah. But it's an interesting ride with the captain.
An interesting ride with the captain. He's having a day. What a day. You find out there's a monster. You meet a man who dies in your little room.
You welcome the monster into your life as well.
Yeah, you really are understanding. It kind of negates the fact that the monster's like, I'm done with humanity. I'm like, all these dudes are cool with you.
Yeah.
All these boat guys didn't try to kill you.
Yep. So.
Yeah, maybe you just like go on the expedition with them. He'd be cool.
He would be cool. I mean, I feel like that's what creature commandos and modern interpretations of Frankenstein do.
Damn it.
Which is just like, what if we had one who was cool?
What if we
just had a cool one around?
What if he could just survive the elements, no problem?
Let's just have one around who just rips and is cool. He's stronger than everybody else, too. Like, he rules.
That is fair.
Let's keep him around. Yeah.
Well, speaking about how much he rules, I actually don't think he rules.
Okay.
I think De Niro is, like, underwhelming, but I also don't think he looks monstrous enough or big enough by any regard.
Yeah.
I look at him and I'm like, yeah, those are some scars. It's more than the average person has, especially when you see Helena Bonham Carter later. Yes. She's messed up.
Yeah.
And they do not do that same, like, work.
And Helena Bonham Carter knows how to play messed up really well. She plays it
well.
Within seconds. She's like, I've got this. I am the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, she's Bride of Frankenstein. She looks like this crazy broken doll, but her makeup is also better. Her whole eye is covered. She's missing huge pieces of skin on her head. She just does look more monstrous.
Yeah.
And Robert De Niro just looks like Robert De Niro with like 2 face scars. I was like, why would anyone attack you?
Yeah, I think like people would see you and be like, "Oh, wow, you had a bad accident.
A dog tried to bite you, huh?"
Yeah, you've had rough days, but like to be like, "Oh, it's a monster." I don't think
it's cholera in person. They called him the cholera.
He's the cholera,
which is a cooler name.
But also, you know, one of the other themes of this is just the panic of a crowd and the wrong decisions that everyone makes as a group.
Mob mentality.
Yeah. But people also make wrong decisions as individuals in this as well.
Well, I mean, because also in this movie, this is some parts of this movie are very weird to watch having been through a quarantine. and a pandemic
Yeah.
and a push against vaccines.
Yeah, one of the doctors getting stabbed by Robert De Niro's initial character, which is just an anti-vax guy who's like, no, vaccines aren't real.
Yeah, the fact that Frankenstein's monster is an anti-vaxxer who is killed because he killed a doctor who was trying to vaccinate him is just insane.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Because, like, I feel like if I had watched this movie before 2020, I'd be like, it's crazy to stab a guy because you're anti-vaccine. So unbelievable. And now in 2025, I'm like, no, never mind.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
It's like a quarantine's coming. Whoa, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. So if you stay home, you're going to need some books. Yeah. You probably have lots of time to do your experiment.
I am going to say Victor Frankenstein shouldn't have used the cholera body.
That was a choice, huh?
Yeah, because, like, his buddy who was stabbed to death, everything's good other than the little stabbed bit. And instead, he chose take the brain out of the pretty good body and put it into cholera body with one leg.
I mean, I don't think Robert De Niro had cholera.
Oh,
he was hung. He had something, though.
He had some lesions and stuff on his face, and he had one leg.
So something had gone wrong.
So I don't think it was the top-tier choice that he could have made.
Yeah, because he makes the smart choice with the ladies, where he's like, Helena Bonham Carter's body is all messed up. I'll put her head on Justine's body.
Yeah.
So he's smart about the move there. I guess he didn't think John Cleese would make a good...
It's like, get John Cleese out of this.
Like, why do you have to replace any of the parts on John Cleese? Just put him in the machine.
I guess that's a good point.
I mean, maybe like
one
a liver,
one part,
a liver,
whatever
a kidney,
one part was heavily damaged.
Very small amount of work to be done there.
Yeah, he's not a great scientist.
He's not. I think he's pretty good, actually.
You know what? You're right.
I'm gonna say he has a weird thought process.
Yeah.
But his overall results are.
He can't argue with results, actually.
He's brought two
the results
can
argue with you, it would seem, but you can't argue with results.
Oh. Okay. No, he brought two people back to life.
Yeah, he did.
With a shocking amount of amniotic fluid.
There is a lot of that. He collected a lot of buckets.
Yeah, so at one point in the movie, he's like, amniotic fluid is the birth of life. So you need that to like inject into your person. It shows him getting like one bucket from a midwife. But then he puts the bucket into just this giant tank of amniotic fluid. I don't know how many people are having babies during cholera. Or where you're getting all this.
Big week for births.
Big week.
Big birth week. And then they flop around in it for a while, which was wild. When him and the creature flop around in it, it is the least sexy thing ever put on camera. Mm-hmm. And it's not meant to be sexy, but it's still the least sexy thing ever put on camera.
It is the literal, and I mean literal opposite of that fight in the transporter in the oil.
Yeah.
The Jason Statham
I know that
fight
one.
in the oil.
Yeah.
It's like, what if we did that, but made it as gross as that fight is cool?
Yeah.
And it's gross and it's slippy and it's a weird thing to happen when Kenneth Branagh has just popped his top and shown that he has crazy abs for 1994.
Rockin' hot. Rockin' hot bod.
For 94, these abs are incredible. I didn't even think we could make them like that.
Rockin' hot bod, and he gets slippery as a baby seal, which should be sexy.
It's not.
But the slipperiness makes it gross.
The slipperiness makes it gross, and I'm also so baffled by the editing of that scene, because I think I get the idea. It's supposed to be a birth, so he's like hauling his son up out of amniotic fluid, and he's trying to teach him how to walk. It's like a protracted father and son kind of birthing, raising moment, and that's why it's this long scene. Mm-hmm. But the edits of like, he gets him to stand, and then we cut back, and there's no sound, there's no soundtrack, and then we edit it, and it's back further to the time, and he's further against the wall, and then he's closer, and then he falls, and then he's up, and then he's almost out of the amniotic fluid, and then we cut to him, and he's back in it. It's so disjointed and disorienting, and it's clearly purposeful, but I don't get why it's edited like that.
Yeah, it's purposefully disorienting. At first, I was like, is it meant to be a montage of them being slippery as an eel?
I mean, it is in the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because it's not continuous.
It's not continuous. It takes them longer than it did. Yeah, it's a weird editing choice.
It's a weird editing choice, because I get the idea behind the direction of it. This is like, it's a birthing your son in the amniotic fluid, teaching him to walk. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But after that, I'm like, I don't understand the editing, though.
Yeah, why is it happening again and again and again and again and again?
I feel like this is an edit of a scene I would see as a TikTok, and they'd be like, look at this crazy edit I made of Frankenstein. But I'm like, but this is the original. This feels so 2025.
Yeah, and it goes on way too long. It overlaps and cuts, and it goes on so long, it does become comedic.
At the point where he's hauling the body?
It becomes a little bit Benny Hill farcical at a certain point.
He just can't get him to walk, so he hauls him face first across the floor.
It's a bit of a farce. It's a bit of a farce, and and once again, it's the least sexy thing I've ever seen, and I don't care if it's trying to be. It was just something where I'm like, this was a bummer to look at. It was a bummer.
Well, this is also the moment where Frankenstein, realizes he's created a monster. So maybe that's why it's the worst thing you've ever seen. It's we have to make sure you can feel he regrets this. We all regret this.
It was right away a mistake. Yeah. And I didn't quite, speaking of the editing as well, I didn't quite get how the creature somehow got raised up in the chains. Because there was just a bunch of it's slippy, 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 slippy. And then they both fell. And then there was the sound of chains jiggling. Mm-hmm. And then a bucket hit Frankenstein's head. And then he's being lifted into the rafters, crucified in chains. And the creature is. And then Frankenstein goes, well... and just starts writing in his journal.
That sucked.
And it all happened so fast. I'm like, how did he get all tangled in the chains? What's going on?
I followed what was happening there. He put him in the chains because he couldn't stand. So the chains were just to hold him upright. He was like, get your arms in here, and then you'll be fucking standing at least. We can get out of this fluid.
Yeah.
And then he kicked a counterweight, and then it knocked everything up.
Okay.
So it was a counterweight. You know how everything's getting pulley system.
Yeah. It's pulleys.
So yeah, the bucket that hit him was a counterweight that Victor hit accidentally. And so it knocks down the weight, and then everything goes up. Because I don't know how anything in this fucking lab works.
And then Victor was like, oh no, the counterweight killed him, and just gives up, I guess?
In the book, he's supposed to be so horrified about what he does that he leaves the town entirely, in a panic state.
Oh, okay.
But he's not that freaked out here, so I don't really know what his motivations were of just taking a nap.
Yeah.
He was just like, I'll just go sleep it off.
Yeah. Okay.
And hopes he'll still be stuck up there later, or maybe he thinks he's dead.
Maybe he thinks he's dead. Yeah, I thought that was with the bucket clonk on the head was to be it killed the creation. Was maybe the idea.
Yeah, that one was a little messy. In more ways than one. But yes, I agree with the intention there. It wasn't there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if it was meant to parallel his the birth of his brother. So it's there was supposed to be one kind of violent birth within this movie, and then one kind of more gentle creation, and it is the representation of his little brother and his sister entering the world is supposed to be what these two births are, where it's supposed to be a destructive force, and then it's supposed to be a more passive kind of welcoming force, because Elizabeth just kind of awakes without exploding the lid off and all of this other stuff.
Oh, I didn't think about it that way, but I'm not sure what to think there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I did want to talk about deaths now that we're on deaths.
Oh, yeah,
Every death in this movie is incredible. Every single one. Because it does lull you into this sense of Victor's living a pretty normal life, and this is just a normal movie. And then every death just cuts in and punches you in the chest.
It's hard and fast.
It's hard and fast and visceral and bloody and real. The cut to the mom just being and I'm dancing and I love my children, la 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 la. And oh, I'm pregnant and I've fainted. The hard cut to Ian Holm, covered in blood, sweating, no shirt on, everyone shrieking. So cool.
Yeah, a very well done edit. And something about the juxtaposition of almost the overacting, it felt very BBC soapy drama, even the feint of the the pregnancies come upon me, and a back of the hand on the head and a gentle fall, and then the hard cut into just incredible gore and violence.
Yeah, the relationships in this movie feel very stage play. It's we're doing the motions of relationships in a lot of ways of it's not quite reality, but then all the deaths are reality.
Well, all of the deaths exist in horror film.
Yeah, they are horror film deaths. They're brutal and they're hard, and it's not what the rest of this movie exists as. And it does create a weird tone that I don't know is purposeful, because I kind of would like to feel a bit more tension throughout the movie about this being a horror movie.
Yeah.
But the deaths definitely shock you.
I liked the juxtaposition, and I think it's purposeful that it exists. It flips between a period drama and a modern horror, and I think that those actually do work, and I think that the balance between the two of them is right. It's the right amount of each. Yeah, in my opinion.
No, I think I just wanted to. Yeah, I think that's true, and I wanted to go through each of the. It's crazy that each death is crazy in a different way. Justine's death, when they throw her off that giant wall.
That's the biggest wall I've ever seen. Oh my, that's so unnecessarily high a wall.
How, and they're dragging her because she doesn't want to be killed. So you dragged her up 5 flights of steps. This lynching mob. 5 or 6 flights of steps. And then the rope has to be so long because she's almost touching the ground when she lands because her mom can touch her feet. So this whole production is just insane.
Huge.
And I don't know how much this town loved William. That they were we gotta lynch this woman with no trial.
They were looking for an excuse,
They hated Justine.
They just found her asleep in a barn, and that was it.
That was it. Because when the family of the murdered child isn't the one calling for the killing, that's pretty crazy.
How'd this get around town? They hated Justine. They hated Justine.
I mean, her mom was mean to her, but maybe she deserved it. They hated Justine. They couldn't wait to yeet her off a wall.
Yeah. Did they even know it was his sister?
What do you mean? Oh, that it was Victor's...
The mob.
Oh, Justine's not his sister.
No, who's just...
Is it his sister? I think she's William's nanny. She's the nanny of the kid.
Oh, okay.
So she's a servant as well.
Oh, okay.
She was raised with them, but I don't think it's his sister.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But she's a beloved member of the family.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, but apparently no one knows her, or everyone does, because they're we found a locket with the locket on her body. Yeah. That means she killed the boy.
Who knew that William had the locket?
Yeah, it was really just her, I think.
Just Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so weird stuff.
All little bananas.
Bananas, but cool.
Yeah.
But cool. Mm-hmm. And then Helena Bonham Carter gets her gets her heart ripped out of her chest.
That's such a cool death. Having a heart just punched out of your body, that's pretty wild.
And so abrupt, because he's admiring her beauty and they're having a conversation. It's oh, okay, he's going to kill her slowly or in front of Victor. And then Victor just knocks on the door once and he's well, time to rip your heart out. Wow.
For a big lumbering creature, his stealth rolls are through the roof.
His stealth rolls. When Victor's riding away from the house and is look after my dad, and the creature's already in the dad's bedroom.
How did he move that fast?
How did he move that fast when Victor was on full alert? The creature could be anywhere.
I mean, who cares? But how did he move that fast? But it does have almost a mysticism to it. He is kind of moving with this Jason Voorhees level of magic, this Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, I smashed through a window and killed you, and then when someone came into the room, the windows repaired. Level of is there magic involved?
Yeah, because even if he's strong and fast, I'm that coat seems loud. It's thick. It's several layers. It's gonna billow when you walk. You can't be that quiet. But he's but I am.
He is that quiet.
I'm Robert De Niro, and I'm that quiet.
He's that quiet. And I feel that's one of the problems, actually, that I have with De Niro's performance, kind of related to the stealth of it all, is that he's trying to play it lumbering to a certain degree. He's added a limp to just kind of move a left to right motion, but it still feels very light. And I feel that's one of the problems with his physical embodiment of this character, is that he's moving very light and quickly. You can see that it's someone faking a limp. So it's just that really fast, oh no, I have a limp. Mm-hmm. But at no point does it feel tensed up, or does it hit the earth heavier. It feels just really lightweight and flowy.
Yeah, you can tell he's faking it. You don't feel oh, you're a man who had a fake leg put where your other leg was, because his legs don't match. They're two different people's legs, so maybe one's too short, or they're just not combined correctly and some bones aren't aligned or something. But you don't feel it. It's not like when Colin Farrell's doing a penguin walk.
I was going to say Vincent D'Onofrio as the alien in Men in Black, which would have been a great kind of Frankenstein walk as well. That one locked up, each body part kind of fighting the other. Whereas it almost feels a little bit more Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like it is just kind of like I'm furled and I have a little bit of a left and right. So it feels more Hunchback than it does Frankenstein. But the body seems
like it actually works really well.
Yes, it does. Yeah, really well and really light and really fluid.
Which I will say the movie seems to be saying slowly over time, because they are doing a very subtle thing with the creature's makeup where his scars are healing throughout the years as we see him.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a very interesting choice of saying, I guess, that Victor actually made a body that's living and healing and not just existing.
That's true life. It's not necrotic tissue that he has put some kind of an abomination into. That is life.
Yeah, and I think that's a very interesting, like, active choice you have to make to be like, we're going to do the makeup slightly differently at every stage, and his scars are healing, and he's pulling out the stitches. He looks more human as he goes, even though he's acting less human because he is killing more freely and openly. And he is just seeking more revenge, whereas he actually starts quite empathetic, and he's trying to help that family, and he loses his humanity, oddly enough, as his skin heals.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what they're trying to say by healing up his skin, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Yeah, I agree. It's a cool visual touch, and I don't know if it means something.
I don't know if it means anything.
No, and I think it is one of those things where, like, this is, from what I understand, one of the more literal or one of the more direct interpretations of the novel of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And it's just one of these pieces of highly studied, highly influential literature where everything means something to the point that it is actually kind of visually overwhelming to make it too direct in film, where it's just like, in a novel, you can really do that. Like, every scene is a scene study. What is the theme of this one chapter? What does this mean? And we're changing it for the next one. And in film, there's a lot going on here for a film to kind of interpret and parse and actually, like, extract value out of. And you almost need to, like, skip over the meaning of certain things from a novel in order to kind of tell some of them more cleanly and efficiently in this. Like, you know, kind of as I breezed upon earlier, where it's just like, I don't know if the ship captain works as well here. And it's like, okay, so we have the man versus nature versus man, nature in his own creation, the familial themes that are all coming up to be like the value of the people who raise you, and it's just a lot to parse, I think, in film form versus in the form of literature.
I completely agree, because in film you watch it for 2 hours and then you kind of just move away from it. But with a book, you're like, I'm going to read 2 chapters tonight, and then I'll think about those chapters. Or you rarely read a whole book in one setting.
Yeah.
Or you also get to take it in. You get the author's, like, directions, the narrative a little bit more. You get more to take in. You can have a theme per chapter. But yeah, a movie really does have to have basically one big overarching theme. Maybe a couple tiny themes in there, but yeah, you got to have a pretty streamlined thought process.
Yeah, a book moves at the speed of your own self-reflection. Mm-hmm. No matter how fast a reader you are, even if it is one sitting, if you understand the theme of that chapter, then you can sit in that, or you can move forward when you've absorbed that to the point of your own comfort, whereas a film is just going to move forward regardless.
Yeah, you're not going to watch 20 minutes of a movie, hit pause, be like, I'm going to think about that for a bit.
Yeah.
Go to bed, watch 20 minutes tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Not how we take films.
And if there's any moment of like, is the birth and the embryonic fluid meant to be representational of the loss of his mother's life during the movie's already moved on. It's hard to kind of absorb as many intended meanings as was initially there.
Until you get podcasts. And now it's our job.
Yeah, fair.
Now it's our job. And I still don't know what it means that his scars were healing as he went.
I agree. It's a fucking lot going on here.
There's a lot going on in Frankenstein.
There's a fucking lot going on in Frankenstein.
There's too much happening.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's a thing that happens that confused me so much, and I don't know what this was all about. It's such a quick thing in the near the opening. Victor just got to school, and him and Henry are becoming friends. And then this really big guy walks by who's like a giant. He's like, get out of my way. And he's real big. And I was like, well, that guy's going to become Frankenstein's monster.
Oh, and he was just a rude big man.
He was just a rude big man. And then Robert De Niro shows up, who's not nearly as big as that other guy was.
Yeah.
And this guy doesn't die. He doesn't get his parts taken by Victor later. I was like, Why was that scene there?
Just one rude guy.
Just one rude guy. And it didn't like play into Victor's personality or his story. There was just a big, dumb, rude guy.
Yeah.
Who wasn't the monster.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Huh.
Couldn't figure that one out for the life of me.
Yeah, that doesn't kind of add up. That doesn't add any value to anything.
I mean, I knew it wasn't Robert De Niro, but I was like, oh, Robert De Niro's head's going to go on this body.
It's to show the theme that big guys have never liked Victor Frankenstein. It's the theme of little versus big guy, David versus Goliath, you see.
It's the theme of don't make assumptions of who the monster will be.
Yeah.
Because it might be the anti-vaxxer and not the big dumb guy who was in medical school, actually.
Big dumb people who are doctors can be. The theme is listen to doctors.
The theme? Victor Frankenstein's. Actually, you know what? Victor Frankenstein never gets his medical degree.
Does he not? Does he actually?
No,
never
it's kind of a funny joke in the literary community. He's actually not a doctor. He is in medical school, but he never graduates.
He never graduates, and he disregards the advice of all of his professors and actual doctors.
Yeah. So he's doing a lot of research, and he's in medical school, but he never graduates.
Interesting. Okay. So listen to doctors.
Yes, listen to doctors, because his dad is a doctor.
Yep.
Henry, his friend, does graduate and become a doctor.
And does advise him against all of this foolishness
and
as well.
And also gets to survive. He dies in the book.
Oh, yeah.
Good for Henry.
Yeah, or at least like implied survive, or you could read it as implied death in the film.
Because the whole mansion kind of explodes.
The whole mansion does kind of explode.
Yeah.
But we don't see him explicitly die.
Yeah, because she runs down a hallway that's on fire, but then the hallway just won't stop exploding. It's so cool.
It is
it's
awesome.
So
it's
awesome.
one of the best full body burns in film. It rules.
This stunt person slaps, and I can't believe they didn't die or hurt themselves. It's the longest full burn I've ever seen. That hallway is so long. There are so many explosions happening. It's all practical.
And everything bursts into flames. Yeah, and even from like the visceral nature of the death as well, when like the Bride of Frankenstein, like realizing what she is, crushes an oil lamp above her own head. Like when you think she's going to smash it on the floor and just manually crushes it above her own head to shower herself in burning oils and then run around.
Because she still doesn't want to be near them if she dies because she's so upset. It's
boy.
The fact that they're so surprised that like Victor and the creature are kind of fighting, and then she does that, and then they just kind of hold on to each other because they're both so horrified about what she just did. It's actually a really subtle, nice moment of like father and son bonding, maybe, but like, look what we've done. Oh no, we killed mom.
Yeah, well, I mean, at that point, the creature has become similar to Victor Frankenstein, to be like, he is the one who is also pushed for this abomination of a creation. So now they have been bonded together in creating something that shouldn't exist in this world.
Yeah, they just like his dad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't have kids is the theme?
Don't have kids?
That seems like a theme that's not going to hold on long for humanity.
Take care of your kids.
Take care of your kids.
I mean, there definitely is the familial, like a familial theme of like of your upbringing and the people around you and taking care of your family.
Yeah.
You know, as I think is also kind of shown in the farm family that like Frankenstein is hiding from / also like learning from as well. Yeah.
He's learning from them, but then he takes care of them and they betray him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why he starts to hate humanity. More stuff goes wrong in the book for him that like makes him so evil.
Yeah.
He keeps trying to befriend people and they keep being mean to him. It's a pattern.
Poor guy.
Poor guy.
He didn't want to exist.
He didn't, but then he does start just straight up murdering.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a tough one. It's a tough one because Victor Frankenstein is definitely, it's weird, like obviously we're viewing it from a modern lens. And Victor Frankenstein is the classic, like, I would like to play God, which I kind of think as just more of like a theme and a general expression nowadays. It is weird to see these stories where like how much the literal interpretation of God is involved, like to have doctors to be like, and you remember what they say in the Bible about where exactly we need to stop our line of being God. And it's like, I actually don't necessarily agree with everyone telling you not to see what happens if you run electricity through a corpse, because that's what sends you to hell because of a literal interpretation of God. But I do think that creating new life from necrotic flesh is an idea that belongs in the playing God per se realm, you know what I mean?
It's more of the idea, I think, to me, of like desecrating bodies, which this movie is another theme they kind of touch on briefly, where when it's bodies he doesn't know, Frankenstein is like, they're materials, they're just raw materials, but then he won't turn Justine into a corpse bride, because he's like, no, I know her, and the monster is like, I thought you said they were just raw materials, and it's like, no, they're people, and you're experimenting on them without permission, and that's another line you're not supposed to cross, more so than God being involved.
Yeah, and not respecting their wishes. Obviously, Elizabeth didn't want to be this creature as well. So, disrespecting people's wishes, just being a bad person in that regard. But I don't think that a literal God is like, you don't get to run this experiment or that experiment.
No. Is he going to go to hell? Well, hell isn't real, but
in this world.
I'm like, in this universe where God maybe does exist.
Yeah.
Is he going to hell? Well, probably, I guess, because they said God's against it, but
he robbed some graves. I'm against the grave robbing.
He did rob some graves. I think he legit got some bodies from hospitals, but that's still like you just bought a body.
I think that's borderline, but that's legitimate. That's a cadaver.
That's a cadaver.
If you legally,
like the school has them.
Yeah. If it's a cadaver, but once there's dirt involved, that's a body.
Okay, that's your line.
That's my line. You can have a cadaver, but you can't have a body from dirt.
A cadaver donated their body.
That's where I'm putting the line on that one.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Did you know they had actual vaccines, though? This is crazy to me. I had to look this up because, you're watching a sci-fi
1800s
movie.
vaccines?
Yeah, you're watching a sci-fi movie. You're like, it's crazy that they made up this lie about how they had vaccines. That's insane.
No, they had it. No. Apparently, I wouldn't have, gun to my head. I wouldn't have been able to pinpoint the year, but I kind of rolled with it as the film told me it.
We actually got the smallpox vaccine like 10 years after this movie's set.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's in line with when the movie, like the book was set. But apparently in China, they had vaccines since like the 1500s. They've been real good at it.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang. Interesting.
Yeah. So it's not, but they're not injections. Like one of them is you have to like take a scab off a person with smallpox and you like crush it up. And then if you inhale that, you've given yourself a little bit of smallpox that you can like fight against.
Okay. Different ways of controllable dosage.
Controllable dosage of being shown it, being
immunized,
I guess. Yeah. Exposed. Being exposed to it.
There it is.
There's the word I wanted.
Yeah.
So smaller doses of getting yourself exposed to it. So they've been doing it for years. So sometimes it's scab powder.
Interesting.
I'm glad we have needles.
Needles are way better than scab powder. I will say I did not care for there was just something about the line read of, I'm like, I don't really like the way you said Asia. The way John Cleese said Asia, I was like, I didn't like that.
But
I didn't like that.
I also didn't like the way he said it, even as he was complimentary.
Yeah.
He was like, we're going to do what they do. Asia's figured it out. It's electrical signals in the body. But he said it like they were idiots.
And he brought it from like a hidden presentation, like a thing he pulled down from the ceiling. He was like, let me tell you what they have going on in Asia. And I was like, I don't like how he said it. I don't like how he said the word.
Yeah.
I don't like how we're treating it.
But then Brana pulls it back to be like, oh, wow, Asia's really figured it out.
Yeah, and I was like, it's fine the way he said it.
Brana said it good.
I don't like the way John Cleese said it.
John Cleese, are you too used to comedy?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
This is how I'd say it if this was Monty Python.
And I was trying to be a problematic figure. I don't like how you said that.
I don't like how you said that.
I didn't care for that.
Should that be where we end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's shut it down there.
We say people's races kindly.
If
we're going for themes.
Say it the way Kenneth Branagh says it.
Always try.
And that's true of all the lines.
Honestly, yes, because then you'll be one of the greatest actors alive.
Say it the way Kenneth Branagh would say it. Well, let's go into the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, to please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you get your podcasts. We also have it available via video on YouTube now as well. So if you prefer to consume your podcast in a video format, in a vodcast, if you will, then you can like and subscribe over on our YouTube page. And those are free ways to support the podcast just by, leaving a subscribing, leaving a rating and review, hitting a like button. But if you do want to support the podcast monetarily, that's where our Patreon comes into play.
Yes, and our Patreon is a monthly subscription service where you can support creators mostly like us, hopefully us, by giving a little bit a month and getting something back. So at the $1 level, you get Text from Superheroes a day early. At $3 level, you get our episodes early and ad-free. That is especially fun when we do a new release movie, so you know before the weekend if you should check it out. And at the $10 level, real fun, you get everything I just said, plus you get an extra episode of this podcast every single month and access to the entire back catalog immediately. So you get so many episodes, 80, 90, 100 episodes.
I think it might be close to 100 right now. You get immediate access to that back catalog, which is huge. Last month, we did the Amazon Prime Anthology series Secret Level. That is available right now. And if you do want to get any of those Patreon exclusive episodes just individually, you can also purchase an individual episode for $5. And all this money helps support the network, keep everything going, and ensures that we create everything that we create as our full-time jobs. So check out all of the options and things that you can support over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this rendition of Frankenstein if you could change anything?
My biggest change would be Robert De Niro would probably be recast. I don't know by who. I don't really care. But even if you don't recast him, he needs to be bigger and he needs to be more horrific. This to me is what really made the movie unbelievable. I'm I really don't believe people are attacking you immediately because of 2 scars down your face. You're also not that big. He's supposed to be 8 feet tall. He's supposed to be Victor Wembanyama, but giant and thick. A thick Victor Wembanyama is supposed to be coming at you, and that's why he's getting attacked all the time while people are scared.
Slender Man. This is Thicker Man.
Thicker Man.
Thicker Man.
Thick man.
Yeah.
That's what he's supposed to be, and he's just not that in any way. And his skin's supposed to be yellow, and you can see his veins, and his skin looks normal for the most part. And even the parts where he's stitched together, I'm why is your skin the same color? They didn't even change. Your face doesn't look like it's made of 2 different people. So he doesn't look like a monster, and that's the biggest thing that's bothering me about this movie. I like that's true to the book. I like that the deaths are so horrifying. I think there's many themes here. I think the performances are great. If this monster was truly horrific, I think I would love the hell out of this movie. So I just want a bigger, thicker boy who's giant and just has a worse face. That's my biggest change for Frankenstein, the actual monster itself. Andrew, what would you change?
I love it. I agree with that 1,000%. I think my only real change is I would pick up the pace of the first act, maybe by an extra 20%. It kind of moves a little bit slow and sits a little bit too long. I mentioned that I like the juxtaposition of it being a period drama switching to horror within some scenes. I think it spends a little bit too long in period drama before it establishes that it is a light switch that goes on and off from horror. So I think just stylistically, that first act needs to move a little bit faster and establish a little bit sooner that this is something where it will be switching genres and tonalities from time to time. Because I think we're looking at 30 plus minutes as it sits in kind of a quiet, thoughtful, romantic piece. Mm-hmm. And I think that really should be kind of closer to 15 or 20 as opposed to 30 plus.
The mom dies in there, but it's pretty quick. And then there's about 30 minutes where there's no other deaths or anything horrific.
Yeah.
So I'd agree with that. I think we'd probably cut the lightning in the field scene. Because there's already so many scenes of him being I'm really good at science.
Especially when, as well, we're not using the traditional lightning as the initiating source of life. Mm-hmm. So that feels just kind of like a setup without a payoff. If we're using electric eels in this,
it is crazy that he uses eels when they introduce lightning early in the movie.
I don't know what the book version is. What is if it's eels or lightning? But either way, it's 2 different sources that are established. I would cut out all of the younger Frankenstein stuff. I would just start with Kenneth Branagh. We can establish the relationships a little bit quicker and cut the lightning scene. Just get that opening section moving a little bit peppier to kind of show us the stylistic changes between genres a little bit sooner.
I like all that. Oh, and Kenneth Branagh would not call his sister, or she wouldn't be his sister. She would just be a girl.
Yeah.
That would probably make it more fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of those, like, modernization liberties that we're allowed to take. We're allowed, and like, yes, there will be people who are like, but in the book, it's sister. It's like, yeah, we're just going to kind of breeze past that a little bit. In the Tom
Sawyer book, they say the N-word. We just kind of move past some things, guys.
Yeah, we're trying to make it.
We're keeping the core idea.
We're trying to make it a little bit better.
It's not about the sister-brother thing.
The theme is not marry your sister. That's not the theme. And if it's not one of the themes, then it can be ditched.
Love that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good rule of thumb.
If it's not the theme, you can ditch it. If it's problematic and the theme is not about analyzing that problematic act, ditch it.
Love it.
Love it.
So we also have to cut John Cleese's performance of the word Asia.
I don't like how he said it.
We gotta cut that too.
Get it out of here. Well, that's going to do it for this week talking about Frankenstein. Thank you very much for hanging out. Next week, we're going to be back and we're going to be talking about Creature Commandos, the full season of Creature Commandos. So we will be back talking about that next week. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me most places online, mainly Instagram and Blue Sky. I am at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Words of Diana.
And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes, and check out everything we create on our website, fromsuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.